nervous inside.
Yeah.
And we all are. I'm sorry. So allow me this time to read, because I'm so nervous. But first of all, aloha kako. And one of the things about my name, Pueo4Puna, in ancient Hawaiian means new beginning. Let me just say, first of all, I'm known to keeping my word. No nonsense, a doer. Let's get it done, and let's do it right. I was born to a single parent in Manoa housing and descended from plantation workers here in 1880 at Onamea Plantation. My roots are deep. I love these islands. I love the land, the water. I understand about we need to have a complete balance between jobs and protecting the land. I also have worked, and with the jobs that I've had to work, is as unfortunate as not compatible to the wages of California. So working from 12 to 18 hours a day, being full-time, part-time, and on-call was necessary in order to save monies to put down payment on my first house, which is a fixer-upper. So I understand the need to have jobs, I understand the need to protect our aina, to increase our forest land, to preserve our forest. We need to increase our green belts. I grew up mostly on Oahu in Kailua, where you could ride a horse to Kaneohe, Waimanalo, even go to the beach with your horse. And slowly, because the growth was not protected, you have house hopping from roof to roof. You no longer even have access to the beach. We do not need this here. We need to have better focus on how we're going to preserve our land. Madam Pelly has been obliging for us since the 80s with our volcano, where we rely on the tourists. Well, we need to realize she's not going to be doing her number all the time. So what do we need? Well, look at our assets that we have here.
No, one. Oh, sorry.
Look at the assets that we have here. We have the aina, we have the coastal. So let's preserve it, let's make major parks so that we can still attract tourists. Meanwhile, our own people can also enjoy the land. I'm a farmer, I have avocados planted. And I'm also with Hui Pono Hololona, where we help people get their dogs and cats spayed and neutered. I had a bill for an act in the legislature. So I do know the legislature on how it works, and I have the passion, and I have the knowledge of growing up in the islands, here on this island as well as Oahu, to making a positive difference for the future of this island. Mahalo. Aloha. Okay, GMO. For me, I listen good. And I listen to what people say, and I listen to the science that as yet needs to be done. Okay? That's the problem. When I worked at the tumor registry at Tripler, I reviewed thousands and thousands of biopsy reports and also clinical diagnosis of cancer. And many times, this is for the American Cancer Society, and many times we did not know how that person got that cancer, okay? Until things started to match up. We don't want that with the GMO here. We are not the guinea pigs, okay? The other thing is, when I hear science, I remember growing up when cigarette smoke was controversy. Do you remember that? Okay? Does cigarette smoke cause cancer? Of course not, said Marble. Okay? Meanwhile, people were dying. So that's what I'm saying, is that the science had to catch up. So when somebody says to you now, there is no science at this time to prove that GMO is not healthy for you, then I ask you to consider this, that the science still has not been developed. Cloning is like DNA GMO. They have found out that cloning, you don't get the same results from the original source. So keeping that in mind, GMO, maybe, down the road, years from now, when they've had studies sufficient enough, okay? But not now. So if this community came and said, you know, Frannie, you're wrong, okay, we want GMO, as hard as my heart would be, I would have to give in to the people's wish. But I tell you now, I stand against GMO, 100%. And it's one of the things that we need to tell the state and federal, where is the study on the health of the people that have been living there for X number of years and following them, and have the federal and state pay for that, okay? So in the plan, we have it. Are we going to phase it out? In my plan, you betcha. How long is it going to take? This I don't know, but that is my word, is that I'm inclined to go to solar. Unfortunately, yes, we have some solar panels that are being made in foreign countries that are poisoning their environment. We need to take control of this. And even though it's going to cost our local labor to make this, better we do it. Increase the jobs. We have batteries now that are long-term and not as polluting as they were before. The industry in solar is really striving, and it's time that we start looking into this more. With the wind turbines, that is something that we have to be really, really careful where we put it, because it's affecting our environment with the vibrations that are being sent out, as well as it's hurting our birds. So well placed in a designated area, away from the populations, away from where it's going to be hurting our bird population, those are things to consider. But with the geothermal, this is one thing I learned about the federal, state, and county on Honolulu, and I bring this up is because of Kaiwanui Swamp. At one time, the species there were not protected, and it was the dump. And so there was a controversy on who was going to take care of this area. So just think about this. Who's going to take care of our system now? We cannot trust the agencies before us, just like we couldn't or shouldn't have trusted the agencies that were on Oahu. What happened? Well, they were fighting as to who was taking responsibility. Meanwhile, we had a flooding. We had water 4 feet coming into the windows, okay, in Kailua on Oahu. Meanwhile, the Corps of Engineers, the federal, the state, and the county were still trying to figure out who was responsible to pay for this or that prior to the flooding. So I say this with warning. When we are projecting to have certain things for energy, no matter what it is, whether if it's geothermal or if it's for solar, we have to put protection agencies in there. One for the environment, for us and health, as well as for the contamination that might be resulting from it. Mahalo. To know a few things. One is who owns the land at Greenwood and Volcano to take our trash. Okay, for example, in Ke'au here, we've been dumping garbage for like 40, 60 years. That land in Ke'au is owned by Shipman. Okay, so the county has been leasing that land until recently. The 20-year lease has now been yearly. And in the new lease, Shipman has put no feeding of the feral animals. Okay, so we won't go into that issue. The point is that how come we don't own this land? Okay. 2 years ago, we spent over $600,000 for improvements in the Ke'au transfer station. Land we do not own. Okay, land where the lease was coming up for renewal. This is land that now is no longer almost 20 acres where we're leasing. Now it's down to 10. And when you try to find out, hey, where does the 10 acres begin and end? Oh, no survey. Bad business. Really bad business. Okay, so for having greenfield, so now what we need to do is, I would say, condemn that land for public use and not have any company or private sector own this community, because, be aware, Shipment, and I apologize, I'm not going after Shipment, I'm just using them as an example, okay? They can deny us access to fresh, clean water and deny this community to put your rubbish there. How dare we give any company or private sector that control over our community for clean water and our garbage? So this is what we need to do, is we go back to Glenwood, we go back to Volcano, we make sure we own that land, and then we go ahead and put up the bins necessary for sorting. And we might even go to a lottery system where people will actually take a ticket and might win a ticket to Vegas if they bring their garbage. Who knows, but we need to have incentives. Okay? Mahalo. Aloha. Okay, invasive species. Oh boy, coming from the islands, we have seen too much already. Concerning on how we're going to do some proposals. Well, accountability. For example, a couple weeks back, I went to buy some grass at one of the nurseries. Guess what? Full of fire ants. Okay, so I went top star with the owner, and she because before I even put it in the car, I started to try to get and I carry spray in my car. One of the things too is that with the mulch, there's only one machine that grinds this up, to my understanding, and we share it with Kona. Okay, so one of the things about the mulch is that it's got fire ants in it. Why? How I know? Because I got it now. Okay, which is a real major problem, not only to the plants but also to the animals as well as to us, because it blinds the animals with the stinging. So here at Ke'au, the landfill, the recycle area, guess what? There's fire ants. So I would say to the management within the county, you know, if the worker comes to you and says to your attention that there's an invasive species here, or there's something that I don't recognize, you need to get that information out. Right now, I was trying to look at my phone, I have a picture of another invasive species that's been found in Orchid Glen and on your property. It hasn't completely been identified yet. So we go, okay, fine. But no, not fine, because that should already be in the newspaper. That already should be alerted to all of us, to keep alert that this is a new invasive species. Keep alert, and if you have found it on your property, who to call. Communication is a basic factor, and this is what we do not have within our government. And so within the county council, that information needs to be brought out to the people, as well as to spray and do whatever. So if I get mulch, no longer, but they need to start controlling it at the very primary end, beginning, before it starts being spread throughout the island. Okay, thank you, yeah. I have no problem with growing it. I really don't. But we need to take all precautions for cross-pollination. You know, if that is, I don't know enough about it, I'll be honest with you. But I'm one of those people that gets out there and learns and listens. The other part is that since we're talking about marijuana, I just want to point out something real fast. In the paper here, concerning about a resident sued to get their pot back, it's concerning medical marijuana. My thing is that this wasn't handled correctly. Why do these people have to go find an attorney to find out what happened to their medical marijuana? So here's county police, and I love them dearly because they do a lot of good for us. But these people went to them to try to find out what happened to their plants. Come to find out, no report was made, and those plants have disappeared. Meanwhile, they're out of their medical marijuana, which is wrong. Okay? And also, too, is in this paper, it lists the names of those people taking medical marijuana. and that's an invasion of their privacy. Okay? If they were taking any other type of medical medication, their names wouldn't be placed there. But why? Because they're taking marijuana? Okay, you also need to know this. I don't use marijuana, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. What is important is how this was being handled. Okay? So if you, and what I'm saying is that these people with had called their county council person and say, I'm at the limit with our police department, which is part of the county, is not addressing our concerns on what happened. County council person, can you help us? Who has money to go to a lawyer? Okay, that's my thing. Thank you very much.
What's the date of that paper?
This was June 10th, 2014.